I was expecting when I took acid, there was that part of me that is always there whenever I eat marijuana, which is like, let's hope this isn't a trip where I get dragged through hell by the horse of paranoia for 5 hours. And then and there was this moment as it starts kicking in where you're like, oh shit, here it comes. I can feel it.
It's nerve-wracking.
Weird buzzing in the body. And then all of a sudden, when it finally started like really working, it was like, oh, this is why I love this stuff. It's beautiful. Yeah. Life is so beautiful. My God, I'm so happy to be alive. I'm so happy to be alive. I can't believe I lost track of the fact that this is the most incredible thing there is. And
this
then
journey.
that's what it gives you. And that's why I like it. And that's
why I like mushrooms.
That's why I like LSD.
LSD, okay.
Because whenever I take mushrooms, what happens is LSD is like I
feel like I get the same thing on mushrooms as that. But maybe not. Go ahead. Just keep describing.
Whenever I take mushrooms in high enough doses, I inevitably have a connection with some kind of like personified thing that isn't me. It feels
Whenever
like
you take what?
Mushrooms.
Okay.
Feels like something's talking to me or communicating to me or giving me some information. It feels like...
Oh, with acid you don't have that.
No, with acid you get the same kind of message, but the message
comes from within.
Isn't wrapped up in the form of a
talking to nature
swarm of fucking elves or a tree that wants to, send a message to you, or some disembodied alien intelligence that's trying to like communicate with you about some important thing in the world that you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
With acid, it's more of a, yes, this is great. But that's that's not a high dosage. I'm sure if you take a high enough dosage of acid, you could have communications with the aliens.
I always found that hallucinations are like way bigger on acid, where you're like seeing things. You seeing a little guy going, "Hello, you gonna follow me?" And on mushrooms, I've never seen that. I've seen stuff go like swim and stuff a little bit. Like if you look at the grains of sand.
I never had that kind of thing on acid where something.
And you have had it on mushrooms?
On mushrooms, I've had. I can remember on mushrooms.
Yeah.
Holding my hand underwater, looking at my hand underwater.
Yeah.
And it's completely transparent except for a grid of like hexagonal lines, glowing hexagonal lines that make up the framework of my hand, but my hand itself is completely see-through. It just seems to be made up of these like very geometric, magnetic lines that are somehow resonating a hand. See-through. I've seen that. I've been attacked by elves.
You've been attacked by elves?
Attacked by elves.
What do you mean? Describe it.
I was...
describe the elves and describe where... Yeah, go ahead.
I was laying in a lawn chair.
Yeah.
And I'd already, I just made the fatal mistake of watching a Terrence McKenna video the night before, and it's on YouTube. I'm sure you can find it. You could even maybe play it for this podcast, but it's his advice to take a heroic dose of mushrooms, or he's talking about a heroic dose, which is how much he thought you should take. If you're going to do it, sit and...
Yeah, what does he say a heroic dose is?
I can't remember, man. It's like 5 dried grams, I think.
5 grams. I usually take like 2.
Yeah.
And that gets me pretty good.
5 dried grams. That's his advice. 5 dried grams. So, and he compares it, and forgive me if I butcher this or don't quote it for those of you who are like huge Terrence McKenna aficionados, but he describes it as getting to stand next to a nuclear blast in front of a protective window. Like if you could go to if you could go to ground zero of where a nuclear bomb is detonated. So that's how high he was getting. And I had watched that terrible video, and then the next day I thought, okay, well, I'm just gonna follow his advice and take the most mushrooms I've ever taken in my life, and let's see what happens. And
how much did you take?
I didn't measure it, but it was a lot.
That's the thing with mushrooms. It's not always like, it's not like as a pill form. You can be like, this is this many.
You should measure it. I think McKenna would probably recommend always measuring it, not just for safety reasons, but
so you can go to compare it too.
Yeah,
like, that got me this much. That got me this much. Instead of going like, I don't know, it was about. I sort of remember how much it weighed in my hand. Yeah, that's not as easy to replicate. Wait, finish telling me about the elves.
Oh yeah. So what happened here was
Already stayed on track for once.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, thanks.
I remember like within a very short time.
I've taken this heroic
feeling
dose.
it come on and then looking down at my hands on the bed and they've taken on this kind of like
I love that coming on when you're like, oh, here we go. It's like the click, click, click of a roller coaster as you're going up, and you.
I don't, Ari. I'm too much of a pussy. I don't like it. And
we're gonna talk about that soon.
I'm looking at my hands are like melting into the bed. They're melting and spreading out, just like melting candle wax. And I know that it hasn't been that long since I ate those sweeties. And I know if this is already happening now, I've got a ramp up of, an hour or two at least.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that means I'm at the very bottom of the building and things are already melting. What happens at the top of this building? So like, I'm like, oh no. This is when I'm walking out of walking by the pool. This is a spa up in the desert.
Yeah.
I'm walking by this pool, and that's when I hear that goddamn voice, man. Always like, this has happened a couple of times on mushrooms.
What voice?
It's like, I don't think it's like a schizophrenic voice. I think it might be just the voice of my I don't know what it is, man.
What is it?
But, yeah, so all of a sudden I hear a voice. I'll just say it. There's a fucking voice. A voice. No, it sounds like somebody's put a shitload of like layered almost the exact same voice on top of itself like 7 times. That kind of like, what? And it's sort of a...
You were doing that yesterday, or 2 days ago, on Monday, I mean.
Well, yeah, I was trying to duplicate that.
Yeah. Oh, really? That's what you're going
an
for?
attempt to duplicate that sound, which is like... I don't know what it is. I have a lot of theories about that.
Put over each other.
Well, yeah, and Ari's talking about this comedy act he saw me do where I was just trying to be diabolic. This doesn't seem evil as much as alien or as much as old or as much as impersonal. Maybe that's another way to put it. Just kind of impersonal. But the voice was, and it's not a voice. It's like when you smoke DMT, it's not like you hear a voice. It's like you get something deeper than a voice.
Yeah.
You get an impulse or an intuition that you then turn into your own language, maybe. Who knows? But the voice was...
I know what you're talking about.
The voice was, we are the eternal servants of the universe, and we have to do deep work on you today. And so that was where I'm like, oh, fuck, I don't want deep work done on me today. I wasn't ready for this. I wasn't ready for this kind of like contact or whatever this is. I didn't want a visionary experience, yet I took the amount that I should have taken for a visionary experience. And then when it happened, I was like, fuck. Laid down in a lawn chair.
Yeah.
And let me preface this by saying I have read Terrence McKenna's description of smoking DMT, and I'm completely aware of the fact that this could be some kind of subconscious programming from reading stuff like that. I won't.
I worry about that sometimes. So I'm like, am I just doing the experience that somebody gave me?
Don't know where it came from.
Okay.
Maybe it's an experience I've already digested. I don't know.
Yeah,
but it happened.
What happened?
So all of a sudden I realized that there are these entities swimming through my body. Like they're somehow like whatever they're made of or composed of, their form, it
can go through your
sees
skin.
us. Yeah, but it swims in us.
Right.
It doesn't like go through us like air. It's like that we still have like we have consistency
of water.
Consistency of goopy water. They're swimming through me. I can feel these beings swimming through me, and because they're in me, I could feel what they were like. And their energy was like, imagine if there was a toddler or like a 9-year-old, and I know McKenna calls these things tykes. I like to think we both went to the same place.
Right.
But God damn it, I understand why. Like it felt like the energy was young, of a youthful, like a child on a playground or something. But imagine if there was a kid on a playground that had an IQ of like 6,000.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like this super intelligent being, but like with the ethics of a 8-year-old. And 8-year-olds aren't unethical, but they are mean, and they are like.
There's a Star Trek episode like that, an old one.
Oh, there is.
Some kid was like some god was like punishing them, putting them into a different world, doing all those things, and all of a sudden it's like, Timmy, get back here right now. He's like, oh, I'm coming, Mom.
That could have been influenced by that. That's hitting upon this idea of like, if there are aliens, what would their kids be like if they're super advanced and intelligent? You know, they're not going to be like. I know you've seen videos of like kids. If you ever
assholes
when a 6-year-old gets around a dog, it's not trying to poke the dog's eyes out. It's not like I'm going to pull its hair. It just wants to see what happens with the dog.
Yeah.
I got the sense that somehow by, shifting my consciousness with the mushrooms and being placed in a situation of being aware of them and all the entities that might exist around us at any given time, or all the projections of the disparate parts of our consciousness, the fragmental portions of our subconscious mind that we can't accept in ourselves. There's a lot of different ways to name it, but let's for now call them demons, entities, angels, aliens. And a lot of people say they're around us at all times. They're always surrounding us, like mosquitoes on a deer.
Yeah.
When you see a deer running through a forest, I've seen clouds of mosquitoes around it. Is the deer aware of the mosquitoes? Its entire life, it's had mosquitoes around it. Maybe it doesn't even know they're there.
Yeah.
So they're swimming through my body, and it's terrible. They don't seem malicious, but they definitely don't it's like they feel like they found an old fat seal or something. Like they found just some real dumb, slow animal that's somehow aware of them. They're like swimming through me. I start praying. I'm like, please, God, please, help me, God. And it felt like they were mocking my voice, like in my head. Like they were going, please, God, help him, God, help him. Making fun of the fact that I knew that I didn't necessarily believe that prayer is going to do anything anyway. So it's like a reflection of my own doubt, perhaps.
Like, what are you doing? You know that ain't going to help.
So in the midst of this, like, I open my eyes. I swear to God, man, there's all the tree. It doesn't look like the trees don't look.
Where was this?
This was up at a spa in Desert Hot Springs.
In a vine.
What?
Vinery?
No, this was I did it in, that was acid.
Oh, okay.
This is a mushroom trip.
And where was this?
This was this was up in the desert in Hot Springs. Yeah.
Oh.
It's a great place called Two Bunch Palms. Go there. It's beautiful.
Two Bunch Palms?
Two Bunch Palms. It's wonderful. But like, so the fucking trees now are looking like, I feel like I'm in like on another planet. Like everything just seems wild and alien and melty. Standing at the end of a tree branch is what appears to be a gnome. An old gnome, an old an old like tiny little guy.
With a beard?
Beard.
The hat?
No hat. Looking out over the wild like melting trees, aware of me, aware that I'm aware of him, aware that I could see him, and not happy about it, like kind of grumpy about it, just like he didn't seem like it's not like he cared or he found it that fascinating, but just it was an annoyance. He seemed annoyed and old. He seemed old, like just an old shitty gnome thing.
Yeah.
So like that, I see that, I close my eyes. Because now I'm just like, oh my God, this is like, not only did I go off the deep end, I went like way off the deep end. And then that was where, as I'm laying back, I'm just like, I guess I'm fucked. And then it felt like I was just being embraced by something, some beautiful.
What do you mean you went way off the deep end? What does that mean?
I mean, like,
this thing recognized you, wasn't happy about it, and then what?
Well, that was the whole combination of being like swarmed by alien super intelligent toddler beings and seeing a gnome and all the trees looking like they were growing out of something on Alpha Centauri or something. Yeah. All of it combined to like to give me the big freaks. And then that's when it felt like there was this like maternal, loving, sweet thing that was just like enveloping me, and I had my eyes closed. Beautiful colors, just glorious, beautiful colors. It was all very calming and sweet. And then it went from that kind of rough start to something that was a little more compassionate and kind and not such a brutal trip. But it was pretty, that trip.
Yeah.
After that trip like really like.
How old were you for this?
This was like 4 years ago.
Okay.
But that trip was like, made me respect mushrooms a lot more than I used to. It gave me a real sense of like, these are a tool It's definitely a sacrament. It's a religious experience, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
And if you go into it with the wrong intention or not, or pretending you have the right intention when you don't, then it's not like you're gonna like necessarily have a terrible time, but you might not be able to appreciate all the information you're getting as you would if you had prepared for it.
Oh yeah.